All right, thank you for joining us today with our, post documentary panel. Today I have the distinguished pleasure of being joined by some of the best and brightest in the community building and education development space in Kansas City. And so I'll start by introducing myself and then having each of our distinguished panelists introduce themselves and tell a little bit about them. So my name is Ezzy Redwood, previously the, I guess a Little Rock native, coming to Kansas City from Boston, and been here 6 years, did investment finance originally, and transitioned into chairing a think tank in the investment firm, and finally youth leadership development with the State Department overseas. So I currently have a wings restaurant called Wings Cafe, which I'm a partner of, and a platform for athletes called U Hoops. And with that, I'd like to pass it to my right here with Deanna, and we'll continue on.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Deanna Ervin. I am a product of the New York City Public Schools. Been in Kansas City for about 22 years. Graduate of Prairie View A&M University, and currently finishing my PhD in Urban Educational Leadership at UMKC. I am the founder of a nonprofit called Black and College Bound, where we help young people prepare themselves for college from preschool through graduate school. And we work with preschoolers, elementary, middle school programs, high school programs, in the schools and in the communities, just really helping young people understand the road ahead and understand the resources. Also worked with Kaufman Scholars for many years, for the first 4 years of the design of the program, and also served as the CEO for Freedom Schools. So been in youth leadership development and urban education for about 15 years or more.
My name is Airick, Leonard West. I'm a volunteer in the Kansas City Public Schools.
I am Jarius Jones, and I am presently a teacher leader at F.L. Schlegel High School. I am a proud product of the Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools. I graduated from F.L. Schlegel High School in 1993. I went on to the University of Kansas, where I earned my degree in education. Pursued my degree in education at Pittsburgh State University, and currently I am a doctoral candidate for the University of Kansas. In district level leadership, I also have worked with several after-school, out-of-school programs, math and science and enrichment through Kansas University Medical Center, as well as several other programs. And I'm really ecstatic about being a part of this panel and also the discussion with the video that we just watched.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Cynthia Johnson. I am a product of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I went to Divine Savior Holy Angels High School, college preparatory, and then I did my undergrad at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and my graduate work at the University of Kansas in history. I'm currently in my 9th year at Metropolitan Community College, Maplewoods campus, teaching history, Western Civ, African American history, and women's studies. And I'm very pleased to be here this afternoon as well.
Great, and with that, we'll jump right into it. So one of the first questions stems from a comment made by the dean of the Dalton School towards the beginning of the documentary. And in the film, the dean of the Dalton put a primary focus on confidence building as one of their primary objectives. How do you all define confidence, and what kind of role do you see confidence playing in children's development?
I always tell students, go first. Confidence is very key when you're looking at the development of a young mind. You have to instill in your children, your nieces, nephews, your students, that they have the capability and they have the capacity to do anything that they put their mind to. They just have to try. And once they try, that is when you start to build the confidence. And then once you build that confidence, then they become self-aware that they have confidence and they can move forward.
I'd add that confidence is a critical component because my experience has been that school is often something that's done to our children. They are very passive. It was also said by our host a few minutes ago that we see our children excel. Typically they are excelling not always academically sometimes, but we know they're brilliant, but we do celebrate the excellence on the basketball court or the football field. So it sends a message that sometimes that's the only space where maybe they see themselves as being the best that they can be, or as someone who stands out. So I think it's important that we help them at an early age identify many areas where they can build confidence. They don't have to be the best. And we have to also watch our language in terms of praising the effort and not always the result, because they will soon see themselves as maybe a C student, and then that may make someone withdraw or not try as hard because they're not the best. So we've got to learn to say, you know, I see how hard you worked on that. Whether the result was an A, a B, a C, a D, what have you, it's about them trying and sticking to something, and that's what being an adolescent is all about.
I think our young people have confidence. The issue is that it's directed towards something that may not be as productive as we would like. There are various areas where they're confident in. They're confident in their looks. In some cases, they're confident in the way they speak with friends and people within their circles. Sometimes I wonder if confidence is relative to whoever it is that's looking at it. Some cultures view confidence as being one thing, whereas others view it as another. We're in America, though, and I have to tell my young people that America doesn't look like Schlegel High School. It doesn't look like your neighborhood completely. There are others who are basing things off of their experiences that they're looking for. Last week we were able to have a math relays in Kansas City, Kansas, and I served as a co-founder of that in 2005. It was our 10th math relays, and I did it because I realized our students always said to us that, well, black folks, we don't do well in math. We don't excel in math. And that hurt my feelings because I was a math teacher at the time, and I knew what we were very capable of, but I felt like there were very few opportunities for our young people to really show and prove what they were capable of doing. And it started out with 450 kids in 2005, and we've had as many as 1,400 students competing on any given Saturday. And you see a majority of those students are Hispanic, African American students, Hmong students, and white students competing together. So our kids, we have to speak to our young people about showing the confidence and showing the type of confidence that's accepted in our society.
Just to offer a slightly different perspective, I was reading Psychology Today this morning, and there's an article on some new research, I think out of the University of Wisconsin, talking about how adults respond to children and the impact it has on their outcomes. And to oversimplify the article in the research that they did, they were suggesting that even if you take two children who both have some measure of confidence and have had success in their studies, that the way that adults are socialized to respond to those two children will still have a dramatic impact on how that child will respond to difficult circumstances. And so you can have entirely confident children, but if as adults, when we engage with them, our alignment of incentives is inconsistent with what we say we want for them, or our beliefs about what they're capable of within the context of our society come out, and our biases come out even when we don't realize that it's doing so, that those things actually impact children, and they develop responses to adversity. Even confident children will develop responses to adversity that have them step back rather than stepping forward. And so while I absolutely would reinforce what my colleague said, that confidence is incredibly valuable in terms of resiliency, and if what we are doing as adults continues to undermine our belief in what's possible for children, that even confidence will be inadequate.
All right, and along the lines of the adult interactions affecting the ability to react to adverse conditions, you know, within the documentary, there were two fairly different styles of parenting, still in the same vein, but you know, one was possibly more of a pushing type style, so constantly pushing the students forward, taking a little bit more critical approach, and the other was, you know, still, you know, kind of pushing, but at the same time taking on a little bit more of a supportive role, and so, you know, you saw some of that come out in the purple belt conversation, where, you know, some of the parents were saying that they perhaps should have pushed more so that he could get the black belt a little bit faster, and that's, you know, perhaps on them. Along those lines, how much does the family's decision to really push and keep, you know, on the students affect their outlook and affect their likelihood for success, especially with African American males?
A few years ago, my son brought home, I looked at his weekly grade tracker, and it's called School Loop in Kansas City, Kansas, and I saw his grade dip to a B. And some people were saying, oh my gosh, he's working very hard with that B, but I saw 2 zeros there. And I knew what my son was capable of. And after having a very strong conversation, he understood that there was an expectation that I had for him that others may not have had. And it starts with, and we say it, and I know it may sound very cliche, but it's so true. It starts with the parenting, it starts with our adults actually expressing the expectations that we have for our young people. There are some who say, when you talk about the different parents, there are some who say that in the African American culture, that we are very driven by the respect, by the do not ask, do as you say type of situation, and there's some who say that that may harm young people. That's tough to get away from. I also see the positives in it. But when you look at what we value, I think someone mentioned earlier that we may just be valuing the wrong things, certain incentives. I think you mentioned, Mr. Leonard, that we allow our kids to have. Think expectations. If we don't have the expectations up front that they can do it, that you need to do it, that you will do it, we will continue to have this dialogue, and things just won't change. So I think the expectations definitely have to be expressed early and often with our young people, and we have to do our part in making sure that parents understand the type of expectations that they really should focus on in order for their kids to be successful.
You know, obviously parents play a significant role in the intellectual, social, emotional development of their children. You know, but I come from school district perspective that suggests that we can't sit back and wait for the parent behavior to be exactly as we need it to be. Would that help? Yes. But what we do know is that when school districts and when schools are well run, that they can serve as a way of adding value, even if it hadn't been previously added to the extent we wanted to by the parents. And so I'm reluctant to engage in any kind of critical analysis of the parenting that we saw in this film. Frankly, I think both of these young men were blessed with parents that demonstrate a level of engagement that I would want for every parent in my schools. What I saw in the film was a lot more about educators pathologizing children. I did not see a young man who learned that there was something wrong with him and he needed medication. I did not hear him get any of those messages from home, but I did hear them get those messages from his educational institution. Having lived through this myself with one of the young men that I've, 5 young men that I've raised, I immediately took him off of medication. And we worked together through that situation, and his ability to see that he was able, with granted significant effort and work and practice and trial and error, that he was able to manage his educational well-being without being zombified by medication, I think had an impact on his confidence and self-image that is the exact opposite of the impact that we saw in this film, of the insistence by a school that this young man needed to be medicated. So I'm very reluctant to start pointing fingers at parents, though that's certainly easy and popular to do, and much more concerned with how are our institutions actively telling our children that there's something inherently broken and wrong with them, and what impact does that message send? And obviously when we look at the Department of Justice and Department of Education federally going after school districts nationwide for the rapid growth and disparity between African American, Latino males and the rest of the populations, it suggests that we have an issue in how we are treating our young men of color, and that we need to look at our institutions and work on it from that angle.
I think quite often we always need to remember that each child is different. I look at my household, and I have an older brother and then me. My brother, school came relatively easy for him. He opened up a book and it's like everything in it, he memorized, he knew, he regurgitated it back, he got the A. Me, on the other hand, I would read it over and over and over again, and it just didn't click. And so you had one parenting style where it's push, push, push with me, and then with him, it was like, oh, he'll get it. But if it weren't for the pushing, and if it weren't for recognizing the differences and then adjusting how to approach that situation, the outcome could have been very, very different. So I think with each child, you need to approach it from that standpoint.
All right, great. And so I think that one of the things that's been kind of debated around is the role of the institution versus the parents, and certainly the parents play a major role. And as I believe has come out in this panel thus far, there's definitely a strong role for them to increase the likelihood of success of some of these students. However, with that being said, one of the things that's also become apparent is that addressing the issue of parents and parenting for success, it has a much longer cycle than perhaps addressing the institutions, and it's a more of a moving target, or one would say a faster moving target than addressing that same situation in schools. Accordingly, there was a saying that we used to have when we were overseas, which is, the students see themselves through, the lens of whatever institution they're going to school, similarly to how they see themselves in the mirror. And so that mirror can either be concave or convex. It can make them seem bigger than they are or smaller than they are. But where you get the most value is when it's perfectly flat and they're able to see their direct actions affect how they look and how everyone else perceives them. So along those lines, we discussed expectations being present in the institutions, and one might say the expectations are the result of goals, and understanding that there are goals that one is expected to reach. And so would you all speak to whether you believe that the schools do, in our immediate area do a good job setting those goals for the African American students, or whether there's something to be desired still?
I'd say that I see goal setting for our children is very hit and miss, in my experience. So are the overarching goals, we want you to score well on these various standardized tests, SATs, ACTs, whatever. So we want you to go to college. So are these overarching goals verbalized with some measure of frequency? Certainly. But that's not where the success or failure of goal making occurs. It occurs in the granular steps between steps. Okay, if that's where we want you to be, what is the next step that you have to take to get there? And that's the aspect of goal making that I feel like when I'm visiting my schools here in Kansas City, Missouri, that I see as most deficient. And then to follow up with that, frankly, I think as a community and as Kansas City Public Schools, I think we're dramatically less effective at offering the supports that our scholars need than is necessary for them to have the success that we say that we want for them. And so while I see improvement in that, particularly in the behavior of our superintendent, Dr. Green, working harder to engage partners in connecting with our scholars and reaching out to the community and trying not to be so siloed, there's still clearly a tremendous amount of room for growth.
That's actually an area where Black and College Bound has been specializing. When we are in schools several times a week, that's exactly where we are. We tell young people so often things that are very mechanical in nature. Find a mentor, go volunteer, do your service hours. And if you don't know the possibilities, then you approach service hours as if it's, a term sentence you have to fill. I don't want to use the other word, but that's really how they feel about it. Like it's something I have to do, yet another thing that gets done to me. And they really don't understand it's an opportunity to explore your community, an opportunity to see how you can add value somewhere, an opportunity to explore the career options or how certain components of our community operate. So we really help them think through what would be a checklist for maybe other students or other communities, maybe. All adolescents still going through the same processing. But we really help them and say, what is a mentor? What do I do? What kind of conversation should I have with a mentor? We even help them script it. We help them rehearse it. When it comes down to, approaching service hours, it's not just a list and you call and go somewhere and, sharpen pencils or whatever you do. But what do you want to do as a career? How do we help you scaffold that learning so this is an opportunity? And then once you volunteer, here's how we can empower you. Here's some questions you can ask. Ask to shadow someone, ask to sit on a meeting for a while. But it's those gaps that we specialize in because that really is what they haven't had the chance to explore. School assignments don't make you do it. Sometimes families don't make you do it. And we assume that because they're getting older and taller and voices are getting deeper, that they are having these experiences, but they're not. So that is definitely a critical component of helping them establish and explore the possibilities.
I serve, as I mentioned earlier, in the Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools, and no, it's not perfect. Nothing is perfect. But are we working, as Kansas City, Missouri is doing, are we working to try to improve the educational experience of our students? Yes. This year, our superintendent actually gave us the charge last year to begin the process of creating literacy plans. Not just a reading plan, but a literacy plan. We want our students to be able to read critical information, text, informational text, to be able to make sense of it, to be able to critically think and speak to the text that they have, and also to be able to write. And that is something that we've instituted in our district with the hopes that we will produce better scholars who are able to achieve at various levels. It's a work in progress, and I think the thing that what upsets me and frustrates me is that I hear individuals who are products of the systems, and when they have an opportunity to move out, which is anybody's prerogative to vote with your feet and move and go wherever you want to go, but we tend to run away from the problems, and we never bring resolution to it. I have an issue with those who speak out against what the public schools are trying to do. Yeah, there are issues, and we should always be involved in the public square that deals with how to improve it. We need to make sure that our schools are always transparent, that they're open. Parents can speak to it without fear that their child is going to be mistreated once they go back. But I think that we do ourselves a disservice, and I say just us, meaning just in a theoretical sense, that we tend to forget that there are young people who deserve exactly what we were able to get whether or not if it was at the exceptional level, something worked, something happened, but don't run away from the issue. And I think that that's what we are a victim of, is that we have those individuals who are running away who could probably make a profound impact on our work. When I watched that video, I actually got a chance to see it a couple of weeks ago when it aired on PBS, and I don't know if it was the original time it aired, but my wife and I happened to be up very late. It was a snow day, and so I got a chance to stay up and watch the video, and it confirmed a lot of things that we see in our schools. The lack of expectations that some of the adults have. It exposed the views that some who represent the majority of our teachers may have about our young people and their capabilities, the communities. But I think that the issue is that we have a lot of people who are missing around this forum who need to also be engaged in the process. As a parent of students who are in the public schools, I see sometimes the tendencies of being shut out. My students attend the magnet school in Kansas City, Kansas, and sometimes I feel that those who are the adults who are teaching, who are leading, that they don't always want us to be in tune with what's going on. But a parent who also has an educational background, I intentionally assert myself into that situation. Not everybody feels welcomed. So I don't know if how the question is going to go, but I think that schools can do a better job of making our constituents and our patrons feel welcome and to feel as though they are a part of not only the school district, but that they can also be a part of the solution.
Great, and I think that within that answer, there are a few things that are touched upon that are really important, to creating a solution. Among those, providing, the piece about providing volunteer opportunities, finding mentors, and career options. I think those all speak to, creating that motivation for the students and helping them understand why it's important they do something and providing a reason for them to be passionate about it. And I think that perhaps we might agree that sometimes there's a lack of knowing what's out there and why it matters to them, and perhaps without that chance to find something that they're passionate about, maybe they're not as internally motivated as they could be. So I think that's a great point to that effect. And I wanted to ask if you all are familiar with any easily duplicatable programming that can be instituted within the schools, whether it's yours or otherwise, or as we're entering into a technology age, if there's any platforms out there that are providing those insights into volunteer opportunities or career options, for the students outside of what they see on television.
No, I just didn't want to go first again.
I keep talking too much.
I will. When I think about the welfare of our scholars in the Kansas City Public Schools, there are a few key areas of intervention that I'm particularly focused on, and then I think we as a district are particularly focused on. One of those areas is the offerings, the level of rigor of the offerings that we're providing for our young people. So what we know from the research is that when young people take more challenging courses in high school, it increases their likelihood of pursuing college and being successful in college. We know that when they complete somewhere between 8 and 12 hours of college credit prior to high school graduation, it significantly increases their likelihood of attending college. When they complete 20 or more hours of college credit during high school, that it dramatically increases their likelihood of graduating from college. And so if we know that our young people have all of the wisdom and curiosity and intellect necessary to achieve at high levels, that we ought to challenge that. And we know from the research that doing so pays dividends. And so one of the things that we're increasingly doing is providing access to IB, AP, and dual credit programming in the Kansas City Public Schools. I think it's very reasonable to do. I think it's very replicable. I think it adds a tremendous amount of value. Last year, 16 of our scholars in Kansas City Public Schools graduated from high school with their associate's degrees already completed, paid for, done. 2 years of college out of the way. Our vision is that increasingly it should be unlikely the young people graduate from the Kansas City Public Schools without some measure of AP, IB, or dual credit courses, and that there should be an ever increasing number, hopefully moving up toward the quarter or a third of our scholars eventually graduating with their